morning to my lovely students of class 6. Welcome to another session of English. In this video, I am going to explain you Taro'S Reward chapter 3 of English. In the end of the video, we will discuss question answers. So before moving to the chapter, let me explain you the main characters of the story. Firstly, Taro, who is a young, kind-hearted, poor child of his parents. Then Taro's parents, they are very old. Then we have villagers. Then lastly we have a king who is genuine and kind-hearted to everyone. Before reading an explanation of the chapter, let me give you the intro of the chapter. This story, Taro'S Reward, is a Japanese folktale. Folktale means which passes on generation to generation. So this story is of thoughtful and loving son who works hard to fulfill his parents' wishes. So let's move into the story. A young woodcutter named Taro lived with his mother and father on a lonely hillside. All day long he chopped wood. Chopped means cut into pieces in the forest. Though he worked very hard, he earned very little money. This made him sad, for he was a thoughtful son and wanted to give his parents everything they needed. One evening, when Taro and his parents were sitting in the corner of their hut, a strong wind began to blow. It whistled through. Whistled through means passed through with a whistling sound. The cracks. Cracks means narrow gaps or openings of the hut, and everyone felt very cold. Suddenly, Taro's father said, "I wish I had a cup of sake." Sake is a popular Japanese drink which is very costly. It would warm me and do my old heart good. Nation of these stanzas. So one day what happened? Taro and his family were sitting in the corner of their hut. A strong wind blew and come inside with a whistling sound, and everybody felt very cold. They were shivering. Suddenly, Taro's father wished if he could have a cup of sake, it would make him warm and would be good for his heart. Moving to the next stanzas. This made Taro sadder than ever, for the heart-warming drink called sake was very expensive. How do I earn more money? He asked himself. How do I get a little sake for my poor old father? He decided to work harder than before. Next morning, Taro jumped out of the bed earlier than unusual and made his way to the forest. He chopped and cut as the sun climbed, and soon he was so warm that he had to take off his jacket. His mouth was dry and his face was wet with sweat. My poor old father, he thought, if only he was as warm as I. And with that, he began to chop even faster, thinking of the extra money he must earn to buy the sake to warm the old man's bone. So Taro became very sad because the heart-warming drink sake was very expensive, and he thought, how can I earn more money so that I can give sake to my father? So he decided to work harder than before. Next day, he jumped out of his bed early and went to the forest. Why did he wake up early? Because he wanted to make more money to buy sake for his father. So whole day he chopped the wood until the sun came up, that is afternoon. He felt hot and took off his jacket, and his mouth became dry. and that time he thought about his father and began to chop again so that he can earn more money and buy sake for his father. Now moving to paragraph 5 and 6. Then suddenly Taro stopped chopping. What was the sound he heard? Could it possibly be rushing water? Taro could not remember ever seeing or hearing a rushing stream in that part of the forest. He was thirsty. The axe dropped out of his hands and he ran in the direction of the sound. Taro saw a beautiful little waterfall hidden behind a rock. Kneeling means bending, at a place where the water flowed quietly. He cupped a little in his hands. Cupped a little in his hand means he took some water in his hands as if in a cup and put it to his lips. Was it water or was it sake? He tasted it again and again, and always it was the delicious sake instead of cold water. So suddenly Taro stopped chopping. Why did he stop chopping? Because he heard the sound of rushing, that is falling water. But he had never heard any water falling in this part of the forest. He was thirsty also. So when he heard that voice, he ran towards the direction of the sound. He was surprised that there was a beautiful waterfall hidden behind a rock. Taro kneeled and he cupped hand. That is, he took water in his hand and shaping his hand like a cup, and then he tasted, and he was surprised because that was not water. And what it was really? It was a delicious drink, sake. He tasted again and again, and it was the tasty sake. Moving to paragraph number 7 and 8. Taro quickly filled the pitcher. Pitcher means pot. He had with him and hurried home. The old man was delighted. Delighted means he was very happy with the sake. After only one swallow of his liquid, he stopped shivering and did a little dance in the middle of the floor. That afternoon, a neighbor stopped by for a visit. Taro's father politely offered her a cup of the sake. The lady drank it greedily. Greedily means she was desiring more and more, and thanked the old man. Then Taro told her the story of the magic waterfall. Thanking them for the delicious drink, she left in a hurry. By nightfall, she had spread the story throughout the whole village. That evening, there was a long procession of visitors to the woodcutter's house. Each man heard the story of the waterfall and took a sip of the sake. In less than 1 hour, the pitcher was empty. Now, what happened? Taro quickly filled the pot and quickly went to his home. He gave sake to his father. When his father took one sip of the sake, he was very happy. Just after one sip, he stopped trembling with cold and started dancing in the middle of the floor with joy. In the afternoon, one neighbor stopped by. Taro's father politely offered her a cup of sake. That lady drank it greedily if she wanted more and more. Then the lady thanked him. So Taro told the whole story of that delicious drink. Then the lady quickly went out, and by the nightfall, the story of the sake spread out the whole village. Everybody in the evening, one after the another, came to Taro's house. Each one took a sip of sake and heard the story of waterfall, and within a short time the pot of sake was empty. Next morning, Taro started for work even earlier than the morning before. He carried with him the largest pitcher he owned, for he intended means planned, first of all to go to the waterfall. When he reached it, he found to his great surprise all his neighbors there. They were carrying pitchers, jars, buckets, anything they could find to hold the magic sake. Then one villager knelt and held his mouth under the waterfall to drink. He drank again and again and then shouted angrily, "Water! Nothing but water!" Others also tried, but there was no sake, only cold water. "We have been tricked," shouted the villagers. "Where is Taro? Let us drown him in this waterfall." But Taro had been wise enough to slip behind a rock when he saw how things were going. He was nowhere to be found. Morning, Taro went for the work earlier than before because he wanted to fill the larger pitcher that he took with him before the other villagers would reach. As he knew everybody heard the story and they will go there. He reached there and he was surprised that entire neighbors were there with pitchers, jars, buckets. And one of the villagers tasted that water. He shouted in anger, "It is water, nothing else. It is not sake. It is only the cold water." So the people became angry and they wanted to drown Taro in the fall, but didn't find Taro. So the villager thought that Taro had tricked him. So Taro was wise enough. He hid behind rock and he knew that if he will go there, villagers will be very angry. Muttering their anger, muttering means speaking unclearly, and disappointment, the villagers left the place one by one. Taro came out from his hiding place. Was it true? He wondered. Was the sake a dream? Once more he caught a little liquid in his hands and put it to his lips. It was the same fine sake. To be thoughtful, son, the magic waterfall gave the delicious sake to everyone else. It gave only cold water. Now the villagers didn't find Taro and left the place with anger one by one. Now Taro came out from the place where he was hiding and he wants to find it. That was it true? He wondered and took liquid in his hands and tasted. But it was the same sake. So he was a thoughtful son. So the magic waterfall gave him delicious sake and others cold water. The story of Taro and his magic waterfall reached the Emperor of Japan. He sent for the young woodcutter and rewarded him with 20 pieces of gold for having been so good and kind. Then he named the most beautiful fountain in the city after Taro. This, said the emperor, was to encourage all children to honor and obey their parents. Soon the story of waterfall reached the Emperor of Japan, and he called the young woodcutter and rewarded 20 pieces of gold for his thoughtfulness and devotion towards his parent and to be good and kind, and also named the most beautiful fountain in the city after Taro, so that other children will get encouraged to respect their parents. So my dear children, tell me, what is the value we get from this story? So the value we get that we should be worthy and thoughtful towards our parents, and always we should take care of our parents and elders. So this was the beautiful story of Japan. Hope you liked it. Now moving to the question answer. Question number 1. Why did Taro run in the direction of the stream? Taro ran in the direction of the stream because he was very thirsty and he had also never before heard the sound of falling water in that area. Question number 2. How did Taro's father show his happiness after drinking sake? After taking one sip of sake, Taro's father stopped shivering and started dancing in the middle of the floor. Question number 3. Why did the waterfall give Taro sake and others water? Taro was a thoughtful son. He served and cared for his old parents sincerely. Hence, the waterfall rewarded him for his goodness. Other people were just greedy. So the waterfall gave him plain water. Question number 4. Why did the villagers want to drown Taro? The villagers went to the waterfall to collect sake, but they got only plain cold water. They thought that Taro had tricked them, so they wanted to drown him to punish him. Question number 5. Why did the emperor reward Taro? The emperor of Japan rewarded Taro for being a thoughtful and devoted son. This was the emperor's way to encourage all children to respect, obey, and serve their parents. So these were the question answers. Learn it so that you can able to solve in the coming exams. Thank you. God bless you all.